existence. I'm glad that they did counterfactually, because when you think about it logically, all existence is non-consensual. No one could agree to exist before they exist. So the question is just, did you make a choice that was like plausibly something I would like?
It's interesting.
And if you did, then thank you.
Is it fair to say that pain and suffering in the normative sense outweighs or is, more than, euphoria and happiness in the world?
The life that you're going to see right now is going to be good. Yeah. But I think that it's complicated because we don't know what will happen in the future. And if we explore the stars and spread consciousness to the stars and create blissful utopias in the stars, then probably we could outweigh it. That's like one thing to consider. And the other thing to consider is like many of the animals that we think are conscious might not be. So it might not be the case that like insects are conscious or even like fish are conscious. And if that's true, then like it's much less plausible. Okay, it's more plausible that there is like a rough parity between pleasure and pain.
Why would you assume an insect is unconscious?
Wait, when you guys are saying conscious, do you guys actually mean sentient?
I mean, having qualia. Having something that's like to be you. Having a point of view.
I mean, that would make a difference between what Sebastian was about to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that insects are probably conscious, but I do think that I would guess that fish are. But like, I don't know, consciousness is still very mysterious, and it had to emerge somewhere. Well, okay, it didn't have to, but let's just I think it's kind of plausible that somewhere in our evolutionary history it emerged. And it's a little bit hard to say when that happened.
Do you think though that you're obviously everyone's subject to bias, but I'm hoping that you're perfectly well and perfectly happy both physically and mentally. Is that the case?
Honestly, not.
No, me neither. But so on a scale of 1 to 10, could you quantify your suffering?
Dude, don't do that.
I'm like a 5 out of 10. 4 out of 10, 5 out of 10, something like that.
So you're an optimist, yeah. That's good for you. Yeah, I sort of tend towards the pessimistic side, but no, it's I don't know.
Wow, Sebastian, more health professionals should think the way that you do. Well, at least, yeah, that's one way to look at it, huh? The way that somebody might rate a pain scale.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm saying something, wrong, or if it's offending anyone, then I sincerely apologize. But it's just
No, it's not offensive. I was actually being sincere. I think that more health professionals should take that into consideration. And so we have these kind of bogus 1 through 10 rate your level of whatever it is that they're assessing, and it just doesn't really make sense. And I think that you kind of made an astute.
10.
An astute quality about a person, or an astute distinction that certain qualities in a person might make them weigh out situations differently.
Yeah. So, no, I don't know. I just feel like, am I scared of dying? Sorry if this is going into much of a morbid direction. Just stop me at any moment. But yeah, I mean, I think I am scared in a way because I simply don't know what comes next. Do I want to die? Yes. I personally don't have a purpose here. I can't see any purpose. I'm scared. I'm scared of dying, which is strange, I guess.
If your life is bad and you think that it's not going to get better, It's sort of strange that you're afraid of dying. Shouldn't death be a mercy?
Yeah, you are right, but my concern is, what if religious people are correct? Let's just say, what if Christians are correct, or Muslims are correct?
No, that's no chance of that shit, man. It's not a chance, man.
What if this fear
There's no chance, man.
There's
no chance, man.
What if there's still fight? What if there's still fight?
No, bless you. There's not.
You still have the ability to
I'm
fight.
terminally ill, unfortunately.
I'm so sorry to hear that.
No, I appreciate it. But
There's no chance of hell. That's just bullshit. But like, your life could get better.
it's strange, I guess.
If your life's bad, there's more pain than pleasure on that. You could still decide that it was worth living, because we don't evaluate states of affairs purely based on pain and pleasure, but in terms of like how meaningful it is, or whether we like we have other evaluative states of pain and pleasure, things like whether we endorse it, whether we think it's good. So you could do things with your life that you think are meaningful, even if you are yourself suffering, and then you can still think your life is worth living. And that
I think I disagree with that. No, actually, I know I disagree with that, because, if you're, obviously, we're not talking specifically about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but let's just consider that for one moment. The things at the base of the pyramid: food, shelter, water, those things you need before you can even start thinking about, the upper echelons of, meaningfulness, self-actualization, so on and so forth. But, one of the things which I don't see in that pyramid is pain and suffering, gratuitous, continuous, terminal pain and suffering, which I'm not saying I'm the worst in the world, but I'm certainly experiencing it, every single day, from waking up to falling asleep. So I'd love to do the things that you're recommending that I try and do, but I simply can't. It's just come on this app. It's nice to speak to people, but I can't. I'm bedridden. I can't even get out of bed.
what's going on, man? What are you afflicted by?
I don't really want to go into it, but it's neurological and neuromusculature problems.
I'm sorry. Yeah, man, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
No, thank you. Thank you for talking to me. I appreciate it. So my voice is failing as well, so it's part of the illness.
Well, Sebastian, I think that you're like, I can tell that you're a thoughtful person, an intelligent person.
I tell you what, I'll tell you something. Sorry to tell you, but I wish I wasn't. I swear to God, I wish that I wasn't. I'm only just intelligent enough to understand these concepts at a surface level. And I hate that about myself. I wish that I was, significantly lower in terms of, I would just consider myself as average to below average intelligence. Quite frankly, I prefer to be completely and utterly, I don't want to say the wrong word, but I prefer not to be able to even think about these things.
I understand, Sebastian. You're not average. I can tell that you're an insightful person. I can tell that you're a thoughtful person. And what you can do, if you can't get out of bed, you can write blog posts, you can get your ideas out there. You know what I mean? There are things that you could do with being bedridden. And the fact that you have a mind allows you to sort of you could just write about what it's like to have your issue, your affliction, and what things help people find research on how to get help people learn about what it's like to have this so they know about it. Like, you can still do things even though you're in bed. And I think that right now, not only are you in pain, but you have a pessimistic attitude that you couldn't do anything. But it is true that you can do some things. And I know it doesn't feel that way, because when I've been most depressed, I also felt like I couldn't do anything. And I would sometimes get so depressed that I couldn't even feel like I could do really basic stuff. But it's just your depression talking to you. It really, a lot of it is just, I don't know. it's just like depression is like a little demon in your ear. Part of what it does is it whispers, "You can't do anything," and you should just remember that.
That was beautiful. I see we got some new people on stage. HG, would you like to say something to the title? I guess not. Toast, would you like to say something?
No, not really. It's all good. Good run.
Ella, would you like to say something?
Yeah, Elia. So,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
it's alright. Why can't people stop talking about God? I think because, most probably because it's the final frontier, probably. That's because, and I've noticed, being on Clubhouse for quite a while, that atheists would definitely enjoy talking.
What it does is it whispers, "You can't do anything."
Theists, as far as I have, noticed. I don't know why in particular, but if you ask me, I think their inquiry about what God is sometimes in certain conversations seem to be more genuine than any theists, to be honest, which is quite mind-boggling. And this isn't to say that there is or there isn't a God. I think a discussion about the nature of what that thing could be, or what a superconsciousness is, or any other kind of terms that relate to those frontiers that science can, or quantum physics can't tackle, or we cannot understand yet, is quite, and will always be interesting, because without it, life would be colorless. It would be. This is how I see it. Life without magic isn't as exciting at all.
Okay, noted. Seneca, would you like to say something? Yeah, the floor is open. If anybody wants to say something, they cut the floor. Would you like to say something to the title?
Did you say Flora?
Would you like to say something to the title?
Why can't people stop talking about God? Yeah, I think that there are many reasons people feel called to speak about God. So my answer would only, if I were to answer it, it would just be a projection of my own inner workings, right?
Okay, noted. Seneca, I see you came off the mic. Would you like to say something?
Oh yeah, I just wanted to commend Sam yesterday. I learned a lot from that debate, that room you had yesterday. So
Thanks.
yeah, learned a lot about synthetic naturalism, and how that's like an answer for why do good things happen to bad people, or why does God allow human suffering. I think that's the best approach. To the synthetic naturalist approach is the best one for that argument.
I'm not. What do you mean by synthetic naturalism? What's that? I don't know.
So naturalism, being that morality can be explained by our natural components of our existence, like psychology, biology, evolution. And that the synthesis comes from combining different naturalistic forms.
Okay, so I'm reading it here on Google. It says a view that moral properties and facts are identical are constituted by natural properties and facts. So like it's like saying like, you know, all the moral facts are say the moral properties are like properties of joy and happiness and love and friendship and like that's the good stuff. And you get, in the same way that like health is like a property, so is goodness. Goodness is like health, I guess, would be what a synthetic naturalist would say. But like just like health is like an abstraction, but it's still real. Some people really are healthy or not healthy, and that some people's actions are good or bad is like a similar analogy. I think that's what synthetic naturalism is saying. And then that's not what I was talking about, but I think synthetic naturalism is a good perspective.
Yeah, it came up at some point during the conversation. I'm not sure if that was your argument or not, but now I don't think it was, but it did come up.
Yeah.
And I went in to look deeper, and I just discovered that, you know, I think our there is a natural or naturalistic argument for why we experience things like joy, or why we think some things are good and bad.
Yeah. You might want to look into this Cornell realism. It's a term you might want to look into.
Okay. I'll take note of that. Cornell realism?
Yeah. Like the College of Cornell or whatever, the university. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Add that to my notes. Cornell realism. Yeah, so now I've been diving into the works of some naturalists like Michael Foucault and George Lakoff, who was actually a linguistic, linguistician? Linguist, sorry, what am I saying? Linguist. And Ludwig Wittgenstein. And his name came up the other day.
Yeah, Wittgenstein is one of the goats, and Lakoff's really cool. I don't like Foucault as much, but he's more in the sort of, in philosophy there's continental and there's analytic philosophy. And analytic philosophy tends to be more about like logic and precision, and continental philosophy be more about like narratives and anecdote vibes, like broad.
You are right.
Like broad theories and stuff like that with less precision. But some people like it. I don't like it as much. Foucault is literally the most cited person in all of academia, I think. So people do like him, you know. And he does have things to say about like power and stuff that are useful. But,
does he support his like vibes and stuff? Or is it just belief without anything related to anything in reality or justified?
Well, he does. I mean, he makes some points that are important, but there is a thing that he does wrong, where he will use like the word like power in like sometimes he'll be like, "There's nothing to truth but power," and then like you'll be like, "Oh, defend that statement," and then him defending that statement will be like, you know, powerful people influence how we think. It's like, okay, that's not the same claim. Is there's nothing to truth but power. That's just saying powerful people influence people sometimes. Those are not identical. So like he'll kind of be a little bit sneaky with like making a really broad statement, and then if you challenge him on it, he'll be like, no, I just meant that, you know, powerful people influence society. So that's a thing to look out for. Yeah. He'll walk it back a little bit. Yeah, so you gotta watch out for that with him a little bit. I think some people that you might really like, if you're interested in like where our moral psychology comes from, you know, and like you might want to look into the psychologist Jonathan Haidt.
Killing this person. What is killing this?
Haidt is spelled Haidt. Wait, let me check how to spell it real quick. Yeah, Haidt. And he has a few books that I've read. One of his books is on happiness, and that was really good. Another book he has is on our moral psychology and why we disagree with each other, or like why do people like fight about morality.
It goes back
Both
on
those
to
books
the
were like
system for the
really helpful for me.
randomized selection of it goes.
He like really transformed the psychology of morality. He like helped us understand, you know, why we have the psychology of morality that we do, and I just really like that.
Killing this person. What?
Interesting.
If you have to read any of his books, read The Righteous Mind. I think I'll bet you $20 you really like it. Actually, no, I'll just, if you read it and don't like it, I'll just pay you $20. And there's no bet. Just if you read it and don't like it, give it.
What if I just said I don't like it to get the $20?
I don't think you're a liar.
No, $20 is not worth a lie.
Exactly.
Goal in killing this
So what
person.
do you call it? The something of happiness? Or just happiness?
The first book that you should read, The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt.
The righteous one. Okay.
And then the other book, which is still really good, but not at the same level, is still really good though, is The Happiness Hypothesis.
Okay, and the happiness hypothesis. Nice. Appreciate it.
When will the conversation end when it comes to God?
Sorry to interrupt you, Benji.
When will the conversation, give me a second, when will it end? Do you feel like they will ever come to an end? Or people will be talking about God forever?
Nah, we're gonna eventually figure out either God's gonna be real or God's gonna be not real, and we're gonna eventually just have it be just like finally decided. I don't think that if we're still around in 10,000 years, there's gonna be a mystery about whether God exists or not. I don't think that's how it's gonna be. Like eventually we'll just understand why the universe exists at all. Eventually we'll understand what consciousness is. And at a certain point we just gotta be like, okay, well we understood where it all came from. So we know that God isn't what made, in the same way that we know that God didn't like make us in the Garden of Eden. Like so, we'll just figure out stuff eventually, and maybe God will be real, or maybe He won't. But it won't be a mystery at some point. We'll just understand too much.
Do you think you'll be here to figure it out, or dead before that can ever be possible?
I'll be dead when we figure out why there's something rather than nothing. I'll be dead.
Go ahead, Sebastian. You have the floor.
Yeah, sorry to have interrupted you there. So I was rereading the Bible. Obviously, I'm not religious, but I used to sort of have to be really.
Like we said,
where I grew up. But does anyone remember in the Bible Jesus spitting in a man's face? No, neither do I, but it's in the Bible now. Mark chapter 8, verse 23, Jesus spits in a man's face.
Oh, when he was healing the blind man.
Yeah. But I also remember it being him spitting on the ground. and that would parallel perfectly with what was in John. But now he spits in a man's face, like directly into his face. But that's telling the same story as the story in John, where he spits on the ground and rubs clay into the man's eyes and heals it. It's just bizarre.
Yes, because the spitting on the ground is in John, but the spitting on the face of the person is in Mark. So they're different accounts of the same situation.
Yeah, I remember it being the same in both Mark spitting on the ground and John spitting on the ground. But some other things, strange things going on in the Bible. So in the King James version of the Bible, they get the first line, the first verse in the first book wrong. And they say, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. But I vividly remember it as being, in the beginning, God created the heavens, plural, and the earth.
It's probably just different translations, you know? It's probably different translations that do different things.
It's just...
Could be.
The spitting in the face is so funny because Jesus doesn't need to spit in someone's face to heal them. So the fact that he did that is just because he thinks it's for the lulz. He just literally doesn't have to do that at all. He can just heal them.
Sorry, how do you have to do that?
Because Jesus is God and God doesn't have constraints about saliva with his powers.
Yeah, it doesn't have constraints in that sense, but there might be some sort of constraints he sets on himself, right? So maybe he has set up the work. For example, it's almost like saying Jesus didn't have to use his hand to pick up food from the table, right? He could just make his belly full or something, right? But because he has set up the physical laws, right? So so now he's doing
yes.
it
So
in the way he has set them, right?
That's a great point.
Yeah. That's great. Because I do believe that the law supersedes its creator. Because I noticed, if you remember when the king took Abraham's wife Sarah on their way to Egypt and brought Sarah into his chambers and slept with Sarah, God came to the king in his dream and at night and said that you will die because you've coveted another man's wife. And God said, well, the king said, well, nobody told me that this woman was Abraham's wife. I was under the impression, by Abraham that this was his sister. That's what I was told. And then God ends up reversing his decision and says, okay, because of that, you will not die, but you need to return Sarah.
So, bro.
Hey, Sully.
Don't you think it's good to heal somebody with some?
Hakula. He's your version of Haku.
See, it's if you do some good, that's why he does it. I also have anecdotal testament. That's a wall.
The stage is open. If anybody wants to speak to the title, they could. If you want to speak to something else, you're more than welcome.
Do you think it's possible that we're living in a simulated reality, Matrix world, whatever you want to call it? Do you think that's possible? So I think it's entirely possible, actually, myself.
What modality is that? I think it's possible, but in a kind of cheap sense where a lot of things are possible.
Well, okay, so let me give you something from left field, but I appreciate you letting me get these things out. But on the panel, who remembers the Scarecrow in Wizard of Oz having a pistol, brandishing a pistol in Wizard of Oz?
So is this like a Mandela effect thing?
Yeah.
I don't remember him having a pistol.
No, neither do I. I've watched that film so many times. I was a child, right? Lo and behold, he actually has a pistol in The Wizard of Oz. It's just the most bizarre thing. I couldn't believe it. I went back and rewatched it. There's a scene where he's literally got a revolver, 6-shooter. I cannot remember that. People have said to me, "Oh, Sebastian, you're just misremembering it." But I think there's something else going on. I mean, every single